Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to this week's Meaty Monday. And today we're going to be talking about all of the heroes that have been announced so far in Marvel Rivals, and sort of giving you a bit of a tutorial on what characters to look out for, what characters you might want to play, and the basics of playing Marvel Rivals. Marvel Rivals is a 6v6 third-person hero shooter. So if you have any Overwatch experience, it's going to translate pretty one-to-one with this game. Most characters have a decent amount of abilities, an ultimate ability that charges up by healing or doing damage, and at least one, sometimes two team-up abilities that give them access to either new abilities or new aspects of their kit. You're gonna want to try and build around team-ups as much as possible, and because the game doesn't have role lock, meaning you can have a team of 6 tanks or 6 DPS, 6 Vanguards or 6 duelists, it's probably best to play this game with at least a friend or two, or try and find a stack to continue playing, just for your own sanity.
Well, I gotta go tank. You go tank. You want fucking tank so bad.
No, but you're negative.
Tank.
That makes sense.
Asgard has been invaded yet again.
Oh, please, stop fighting. I need a second tank. I've blocked 43,000. All I'm doing is cycling ults on shield while I get stunned 4 fucking times, man. Please, someone go a second tank. We're gonna start out with Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock is a strategist. The main things to look out for with this character are his team-up abilities that allow him to basically give free revives to other Guardians of the Galaxy, specifically Star-Lord and Mantis. He can also self-revive himself, which will be the sort of cocoon that he goes into, and his ultimate revives anyone within the range, basically for free. So he's got mass res. Now, Mercy players, I hear you frothing at the mouth to play this character. You should know that while the reses are broken on Adam Warlock, every character in this game is kind of broken in their own way. The weaknesses with Adam Warlock is that he is very slow, has basically no mobility, is very squishy, and has good damage, but kinda needs to play within a backline, because his only real way to stay alive is with his soul bond, his shift that basically functions as an immort. Next up for supports, we have Jeff the Land Shark. Jeff is a very silly character, but he can also be kinda strong. Main things to look out for Jeff are his team-up abilities and his ultimate. His team-up abilities are he can get some like ice shots that give him a bit more AoE if he teams up with Lorna Snow, and he can ride on Groot's shoulders for damage reduction. This isn't as good as other characters that can ride on shoulders. At least it wasn't when I played. I think Jeff did get some buffs from then, but let's talk a little bit about his ultimate. His ultimate is basically he just does this big AoE bite on the ground and will eat all enemies and allies within the range. You can use this to throw either allies or enemies off the map and kill them, but most characters in this game are going to have a lot of mobility, so it's kind of risky. The longer you hold the enemies and allies in your mouth, enemies will take damage, allies will be healed. You can still be damaged and even killed through this, but it is a very strong ultimate, and it can even be used to kind of dodge other ultimates. So be careful with that for allies and enemies. The rest of his kit is pretty straightforward. You've got, for a left click, just sort of a beam of healing. For your right click, you shoot out damage. His shift lets him sort of climb up walls or move around, making him a much smaller hitbox, but you still can die in it. And then he can shoot out little bubbles, which function sort of similar to like a Torb armor pack from Overwatch 1. You'll get a heal. It also apparently knocks back enemy. I mean, I guess that could be a bonus to it. I never noticed that while playing him. He also has a passive that makes him harder to headshot because he is so dumb but also so cute. Next up on the list of supports, we have Loki. Loki has a surprising amount of damage, at least in all the tests where I played him. There's a chance that he has been nerfed since then, but I'm not sure. The things to look out for on Loki are going to be his team-up ability, his ultimate, and his shift. His regen domain is something that I see a lot of newer players not really understand. Basically, whenever one of Loki or his clones has a little green thing above the head, doing damage to that person will heal them. So stop using your big abilities to hit people under these immos, break them. For his passive, this is reliant on Hela getting kills, so unless he's teamed up with a Hela that's popping off, you don't really need to worry about it as much. But it is worth saying that Loki will respawn if you kill him, and then Hela gets a kill. And his ultimate is basically an Echo ult from Overwatch. This means that any person you select, you get their ultimate. And also, he gets this ultimate instant. There is no time where he has to charge up his ultimate. He spawns with the ult the second he turns into that character. So keep an eye out for this, and it can be anyone. Someone on your team, someone on the other team. Just a good rule of thumb is when Loki has ult, someone in the game has an ult. They might have 2 Magneto ults. I don't fucking know. Just for an example. The rest of Loki's kit is pretty straightforward. He does projectile shots that do healing or damage, and he puts up clones. He can put up clones in a lot of different ways, like most of the characters can with their unique abilities in this game. If he uses his right click to turn invisible, he will leave a clone behind. If he swaps places with a clone, it moves the clone to where he was. If he uses his E, he can put up a clone. These clones will effectively be able to do damage and healing just like Loki can, so getting good at your placement of them and getting good at sort of hiding amongst the clones is a really solid bet. Try not to leave up too many clones that are shooting walls, because that makes it really obvious which one's not real. Also, don't be afraid to kind of play dead a little bit and stand still when you're around a bunch of clones. A lot of people will be able to suss out which one is the correct clone, but it's really funny when they don't. Luna Snow. Okay. Luna Snow is kind of ubiquitous in every test I've played, so it's sort of hard to tell if she will have been nerfed a ton by the time the game comes out, or if she's just gonna kind of be a bit of a problem child. Now, for the Mercy players that don't want mass res, but want more of the pocket experience, Luna Snow is gonna be your go. DPS, tank, whatever, you put this E on them, and any healing you do to anyone will be translated to healing for the person you're pocketing as well. Now, managing this so that you're constantly putting it on someone like engaging in a dive or in the front line to maximize your healing output is good, but you can also get a lot of value by literally just leaving this on a DPS that's playing really deep and out of line of sight. It never seems to expire. I don't know if that'll be changed for launch, but in every test I've played, it has been that, which means you can leave this on the person you're E-dating and just keep them topped off to full health without even having to worry about them being behind 16 walls and completely out of your line of sight. She can also like ice skate around and get bigger jumps, but this isn't really something super important to her kit. It's just a nice little bonus. Her ultimate lets her either heal people or give them damage boost. I'm gonna be honest, never put it on damage boost unless your team is like cleaning up the last pick. This thing lasts 12 fucking seconds. No one is dying inside of this range. Unless you have like a really big one-hit ultimate to shoot into the Luna Snow ult, most people are gonna be able to just tank out for 12 seconds. If she teams up with either Namor or Jeff the Landshark, she can give them the ice powers, but she gets a passive healing boost, which turns a character that already heals way too much into a character that heals way too much. She also has CC. She can chuck a snowball at people. If it hits someone, it freezes them. This can cancel ults. This can be used to save her. Pretty solid ability. And her shift is basically just a piercing shot that does more damage or more healing, but also self-heals. See what I'm saying here? She's kind of a monster. She has way too many options. Sort of broken, to be honest. Now, at a first glance, Mantis and Luna Snow seem very similar. They both have a big ultimate that heals a lot. But Mantis, I think, consistently is a support that gets slept on. So by doing damage, she gets these orbs that sort of fill up her slots. These orbs are used for all of her abilities. So by doing the damage, she charges up her meter, and then she can chuck out over these like life orbs to teammates that are going to give healing over time. Now this doesn't stack, so it's better to sort of spread these out among a bunch of different players to maximize your healing output instead of chucking 5 of them on one person. But think of it similar to sort of like your Brig packs in Overwatch. Her other option is to use these life orbs for damage boosts. She can use it on herself for a 12% damage boost. I don't really think you ever need to do this unless you have to take a big fight, because more often than not, giving your allies the damage boost will be more successful, which you can do with your E. She also has a sleep. Now, the funny thing about this sleep is if you shoot the clone or like illusion of Mantis behind her, you can wake up your teammates that have been slept by Mantis. But aside from that, general sleep dart rules apply. And she can also revive herself with Adam Warlock's passive. Now, rounding out the supports for now, because I'm sure in the time it takes me to edit this video and upload it, there will probably be another support revealed, because they haven't released very many supports in a long time. But for now, the last support that we have to talk about is Rocket Raccoon. Now, he has a big-ass Gatling gun, which surprisingly is not hit scan, it's projectiles. So you kind of have to lead your shots. This does okay damage, but you know, you're not really playing Rocket for his damage output. You're mostly playing him for his repairs and his ridiculously strong utility he brings to the table. Think of his repair mode kind of like Moira's ball. You can basically just constantly shoot out these little orbs that will slow down and heal allies around them from his gun. That means that bouncing them off the ground or off of walls is a good way to make sure that it gets the maximum healing output per shot of these. Small, tight rooms are really good for him. But also, he kind of needs to be close to the people he wants to heal, because these can also heal himself. So if you shoot one of them right next to yourself, be ready for it to slow down and not do a ton of healing. The main things that you want to look out for when it comes to Rocket Raccoon is really just his res. You can put down these little beacons that will res any allies that die and give armor packs and jetpacks. I mean, all that stuff is nice. The main thing is it revives people. Now, they do have to die close to this res beacon, but it's something you need to keep in mind. For his ultimate, he can basically just give a bunch of allies a damage boost. This is pretty good for like a mid fight. Not the best like fight winning ultimate. It's pretty strong with a 40% damage boost, but the thing about Rivals ults is most of them just wipe the field. So an ultimate that kind of relies on allies to take advantage of it and succeed through that, especially when we're talking about support, when you got things like Luna Snow and Mantis ults, or hell, even Jeff ult sometimes, Adam Warlock mass res. It's definitely one of the weaker support ults in terms of being a big fight swinging ultimate, but it isn't half bad at stabilizing a fight. It's not one of your high priority ults, in my opinion. He also has a jetpack dash he can do in the air, he can climb up walls, and he can hover in the air. For team ups, we got two. He, like Jeff, can go on Rocket's shoulders and get damage reduction. This is really good on Rocket because his healing projectiles slow down, so being close to a character like Groot that is really tanky can actually be really strong for keeping both of you alive. Plus, you have the mobility to get out of there when things start to get a bit hairy. His other team up ability is to give an ammo overload to the Punisher or the Winter Soldier, which gives them infinite ammo. Okay, let's move on to the DPS. DPS in this game are mostly going to go into three categories. Realistically, everyone is, but this is most important with DPS. For the DPS, we've got our projectile or hit scan characters. These are characters with guns or bows who are mostly focused on shooting. You've got your flying characters, which are mostly focused on flying. Shocker, I know. And you have your melee characters, which are mostly focused on being up close and personal. Now, these characters can play in a lot of different ways, but for the most part, if you like one melee character, you're probably going to like more other melee characters. Whereas if you're more about shooting things, you're probably going to want to stick to more shooting characters. Same thing with flyers. First up, we have Black Panther. The thing to focus on with Black Panther is, first off, he's really difficult to play. Second off, he has a really gross passive. You need to know about this passive, because if you don't, he is going to murder you and you will have no idea he could do that much damage. He gets a 20% damage boost when his health is below 100%. This makes him really scary when he's trying to trade out, because he basically gets a second wind in terms of damage he puts out there. The other thing to note about Black Panther, this was a really big problem in the playtests. I don't know if it'll still be a problem in the base game. It did seem to be getting better every patch. But the way that his kit works is basically you're going to use your shift as a dash reset. And there's a lot of different ways you can put a debuff onto enemies that will give you the dash reset with shift. You could do your spinning kick, you can hit them with your big ultimate, and you can hit them with your spear. The problem is sometimes when the game is laggy, these don't get applied. Sometimes it feels like they should get applied, but they don't. I'm assuming that this will be better when the game is launched or very soon after that, but it's something you're going to need to know about playing Black Panther is you will die because you missed a dash or because the game bugged out with the dash. His team up ability is with magic, and with magic, it allows Black Panther to rewind for 5 seconds and basically heal up. This used to be a teleport, but apparently it's changed for the launch of the game, which is kind of cool. Next up, we got Hawkeye. Now, Hawkeye is your basic bow character, but he has a really interesting mechanic to him. While in most games you charge up to full by just charging your arrow, and it leads to them feeling very spammy, Hawkeye, at least from what I've seen, does not do this. He has a passive called Archer's Focus, which means you have to stay tracking your enemy to get that fully charged shot. So to get the one shot, you need to stay on the target for the whole time. Now, aside from that, you got 2 types of arrows. Your piercing arrows, which are the headshot arrows, and your blast arrows, which do a bit more like area of effect damage. Now, I have not actually played Hawkeye, so this is a bit more speculation, but his Q ability seems to be pretty strong in terms of cleaning up a fight, because it basically lets him just get free hits on targets. He also has a sword, which launches enemies, which is going to be probably your defensive option. He has a hypersonic arrow, which can knock flyers down. This is going to be really good to pair up with some of your melee characters, because melee characters tend to have a harder time with flyers. It also puts a slow on them. His melee can reflect incoming projectiles. Now, does this mean he can reflect an ultimate with this? I don't know. I don't think so. It says it can't block explosions or effects created by projectiles on it. And then he has a double jump. Seems pretty straightforward for your archetypical bow character. Now, Hela. Hela is interesting because she was kind of a monster in all of the playtests. She is hit scan, which means the second that you click her sword throw ability, it's going to instantly hit. She is kind of a sniper character. Think of her sort of similar to like Ashe. She 2-tap headshots and will absolutely destroy your backline with that. But she's also sort of like a midpoint between the flying characters and the not flying characters, because she can fly up into the air and then just slowly glide down. Whenever she gets a kill, that person will then explode after and do a bit of damage. Her passive is that she can revive Loki and Thor whenever she gets a kill and they're dead. Right click is sort of like Echo's sticky bombs from Overwatch. She shoots out some projectiles and then they will explode and do more damage. And for E, she chucks out a little sphere that stuns enemies. You really want to save this one if you're playing Hela to use defensively, because up close, Hela will kind of get wrecked unless you are absolutely hitting those shots. For ultimate, it's mostly a second life ult, I feel like. She flies up in the air and goes first person and chucks down these like damaging explosions that, again, can 2-hit. It's not a bad ult. It's just, again, you can kind of play around it a lot of the time. And a lot of Hellas are actually just going to use it to stay alive as opposed to make some crazy play. Iron Man is a flyer. That means he is going to be in the air the entire time. The main thing to know about Iron Man is he can feel very, very spammy, but he kind of gets absolutely shat on by characters like Hela or Punisher or any hit scan really. He can be a serious threat if he's sort of hovering around aerial cover because he can stay in the air forever. But even a lot of the melee characters that should struggle with that have tools to deal with it. So never feel like you are too safe as Iron Man. That's how you die. His team up ability is he can be overcharged by the Hulk, which will give him extra damage when he's using his armor overdrive. He basically has 2 types of damage. He's got his projectile and he's got his hit scan with his beam. So I'll just sort of shoot out spam damage with his repulsors and then use his beam to clean up kills a lot of the time. His micro missiles that he can shoot out, this might be changed when the game launches, but I gotta be honest, they always kind of felt I mean, they do like a little bit of damage, you know? But I can't say that I've ever like gotten a kill with them or even really noticed using them that much. Again, that might change when the game launches. And his ultimate is basically just a big bomb explosion. You can use this to absolutely fuck up some of the support ults. So sometimes it is worth it to just shoot this directly at one of the characters in a support ult and just fucking take them out. But for the most part, you're just going to use this kind of like a diva bomb. You are very vulnerable while you charge it up. In general, you're very vulnerable on Iron Man, so you got to play him kind of smart. It's weird. He's very spammy, but you should play him very smart. Magic. Magic got to be one of my most favorite characters in the whole game. She is fucking awesome. So Magic is a fairly squishy sword character. Her passive ability is she gets a damage boost. That's it. But the main thing about Magic is she has a big ass sword. Whenever any of her abilities hit, she converts the damage into health, specifically max health. So she's very squishy until she gets into a fight, and once she gets into a fight, she's kind of unkillable if you cycle your cooldowns correctly. The main thing that you want to know about her is how to use your stepping discs. These moves will make you invincible, so they're very good for dodging big cooldowns or mixing up your approach. But you have two choices when you come out of that with what you want to do. Big AoE spin or leave little demon. Now you don't have to do these the second that you come out of the stepping disc. You can delay that for a second. But it is worth noting you are kind of stuck in limbo until you've used one of these abilities. And again, these both heal you. So if you want to go for a more extended engagement and not burn your second stepping disc immediately, a lot of times I find it's best to put the demon out and let them continuously build you up a bit of extra health, because it's usually left on the field and not dealt with as quickly. If there's a lot of enemies that are low, I would use the AoE spin, but more often than not, you want to be using the demon. Her other abilities are this air slash. It does a decent amount of damage and can be used to deal with flying characters. But your other best way to deal with flying characters is going to be your E, where you launch at an enemy and then you launch them up. If you hit them with this and then hit the shift and put down a demon, sometimes you can get them killed in midair from the Magic avoids a lot of the pitfalls of other melee characters because her hitboxes are so big, and because she has a form of healing. Her ultimate basically just gives her stronger versions of all of her abilities and brings them off cooldown. You do have to be careful transforming into it. You don't want to do this in the open. You want to kind of disengage behind some cover, pop the ult, re-engage. And that kind of goes for all of Magic's abilities. You don't want to stay in the front line just taking damage the whole time unless you are part of a coordinated dive or you have a Luna Snow thing boosting you. You mostly want to just be a nuisance that never dies. Moon Knight. Again, Moon Knight is a character I haven't played, but he seems pretty interesting. He can shoot out little darts that bounce between enemies. He can glide. He has a grappling hook, a double jump, and he has a special melee. He seems to be built around these onks. I think I'm saying that right. I might not be, but they seem to be more of a CC, and they give him the ability to bounce his darts around. Same thing with his Moonblade. He kinda seems like if you really like a certain bat-related superhero, this is probably the closest you're gonna get in this game. I'm not saying this is a rip-off or anything, but, you know, if that's what you're looking for in this game and you're like, damn, I wish DC was here. Moon Knight. Namor or Namor. I don't know which. I gotta be honest, I don't like this character at all. He chucks projectiles and was kind of like the Hanzo equivalent in this game before, you know, Hawkeye got released. He's kind of just spammy. His main thing is he's going to put out turrets. And if he teams up with Luna Snow, he can do an ice turret. Ow. He can chuck a special trident that makes your little octopuses shoot the enemy that you shot. And he can turn into a bubble and fly in the air. His ult is like, it's okay. It's a big whale. If it hits people, it CCs them. It also does damage, but like it really doesn't do that much damage. So you're kind of mostly using this for the CC. I gotta be honest, this character was ass in every playtest that I played him in. I'm not expecting much to change. Psylocke. For my Genji players, I think Psylocke is probably gonna be a pretty interesting character. So she can use this crossbow to damage enemies and reduce her cooldowns. This is also a character I haven't played, so this is more speculation. She has a dash with 2 charges, and it will also recall these shurikens she puts out. Now the shurikens she puts out will stick to enemies and deal damage, giving her bonus health, and can be recalled. I'm not sure if... Aha, yeah. So they can do damage while they're coming back. Not a lot of damage, but they still deal damage. So you can use your dash to recall them and get a bit of extra damage and get them back off cooldown. And she also has stealth, but it's only 3 seconds of stealth and it gives her a 50% movement boost. She also has the magic passive where she gets to go back a few seconds and get health back, but definitely a character I'm excited to play more of. Scarlet Witch. This is going to be another character where you need a noob tip for. Her ultimate seems really broken. It's basically a giant diva bomb that kills anyone. But that being said, it's not that good of an ability. I remember for a fact that a lot of people in both of the betas said how broken Scarlet Witch was, and I'm sure we'll continue to say how broken she is. But I just don't see it. This ult very much feels like a call out for people that aren't either able to kill her or able to line of sight it. It takes 4 seconds to charge, and it doesn't even give her like damage reduction or anything. You can just kill her in the ultimate. You can do that. All right, but on to like actually how to play this character. This character is basically DPS Moira's wet dream. She has a suck ability that charges up a meter, but this meter isn't for healing, it is for more damage. So by charging up her suck, she can do a projectile that explodes and does more damage. Her shift lets her fade. In free flight, she can fall slowly, similar to like Hela and other characters that can glide kinda. And she has one of the most annoying CCs in the game. It just continuously stuns. Her team up is with Magneto. She gets a 10% damage boost when she's paired with him. Please shoot her when she is in her ult. It's not that hard, guys. Spider-Man. Your noob tip for Spider-Man is really simple. You're going to go into settings. You're going to go into hero settings. You're also going to do this for Venom, because I know you're going to forget by then. And you are going to turn off easy web swing. It might have a slightly different name, but it's either like assisted web swing or easy web swing. Turning this off will make it so that your web swings aren't automatic. Instead, it's wherever you're looking. This will make the web swinging feel a lot less clunky. This character plays very similar to sort of like Spider-Man PlayStation. You're going to be doing a lot of combos, and you're going to need to be a little bit technical. He is not an easy character to pick up and play, but I also know that's not going to stop anyone watching this video. He is a melee character. However, like most melee characters, he has a projectile gimmick around him. His right click, his sort of web shot, is going to attach something called a spider tracer. While spider tracers are on enemies, you will do more damage with your uppercut, that's your F, and you will pull yourself to enemies with your E, which webs an enemy up and then either pulls them to you if they don't have one, or pulls you to them if they have one. You want to weave these in between your hits. So, tracer, zip in, punch, tracer, uppercut, tracer, dead. Or if you pair them with Venom, you just hit your C after the uppercut and they die. Because his team up is when he pairs with Venom, he can activate an explosion that does a bit of extra damage. You can use this to one-shot people, by the way. You also have a double jump, you can wall crawl, and you have spider senses, so it'll tell you when enemies have been around you. His ultimate is kind of funny because it is sort of a second life ult. It's kind of a second life ultimate, but it also does a shitload of damage. So if your Spider-Man player is doing absolutely buns, not getting any kills, hold your toxicity until you've seen them ult, because sometimes this ult can win you a point. And this is a difficult character, so sometimes you're gonna have to give a bit more grace to Spider-Man players. That being said, it's gonna be a bit of work to get good at Spider-Man, so if you're really about this character, you're gonna have to lock in. Squirrel Girl is another character I haven't played. She basically just sort of spams out explosives. She also has this acorn ability that can sort of stick people to the ground and seems to also increase her damage. A double jump ability, or maybe not double jump, more of a leap. And her ultimate is that she shoots out a shitload of squirrels at the opponents, which seems to do a lot of damage and also maybe bounce off walls. I'm doing my best here. They did not update her ability list, and I have not played this character. But she looks pretty fun, and if you like spammy explosive characters like Demo Man or Junkrat, this is probably your pick. Star-Lord is very fast and very squishy. His guns are hit scan, but they really don't have a lot of range. They used to, and that was insane, but we don't need to talk about that anymore. They also don't have a ton of spread, at least in the playtests I've played of him. But you know, you want to be up close. Things to note about Star-Lord, he can kill you really fucking fast. He also can revive himself when he is paired with Adam Warlock. So the main loop you're going to do with Star-Lord is spam out your entire fucking magazine, then use your dodge, and your dodge roll reloads your guns. So spam it out, dodge, spam it out, dodge, spam it out, and then you're either going to use your shift to get out of there, or your blaster barrage, your E, which is kind of like a Reaper ult, to clean up your picks. The second one of these two options is a lot more risky, but can be nice to clean up some picks, or if you're popping off. The shift out of there is probably going to be your safer bet most times. Your ultimate is you get aimbot and free flight. It's a good ult. You're still very vulnerable, but because you have free flight and aimbot, it's kind of hard to not do well with this. There is no critical hit, but that just means your damage is consistent with this. So, you know. I'm pretty sure if I remember right, I have killed people through Luna Snow ults with this ult, but it's definitely some work to do that. Storm is an interesting one. She's another flyer character, and her team up is with Thor. This basically gives her an ability that will chain lightning between people, and it does damage. The other thing you need to keep an eye out on Storm is her ultimate. Her ult is pretty strong, it does a lot of damage, and it gives her a lot of health. Storm is also interesting because she has two different things. She has a damage boost and a speed boost setting to sort of leave herself in. And sort of similar to like Lucio, this puts an area of effect around her that will give you the speed boost or the damage boost. She can swap between these, and they do boost her a lot more than they boost her teammates, but it's still nothing to scoff at. She can also empower these to make her faster or do more damage, same with any allies that are near her. And she can shoot out a lightning bolt that does damage. You can combine her Windblade and Lightning Bolt and Charge Gale all together and do just like a shitload of damage that you have no reason to be doing that much damage, but you know, she's fun. Not the best character every time I've played her, but it could be a thing of she just needs more people to empower. The Punisher. The Punisher has two guns. An assault rifle that does way too much damage at way too far range with no real recoil or spread, and a shotgun that does way too much damage, can basically one-shot squishies or two-shot tanks. I fucking hate this character. His team-up ability is he can get infinite ammo from Rocket Raccoon. He can also put himself in a turret where like he just gets more health and is basically unstoppable while in it. It's pretty annoying, but honestly you can usually LOS it or just spam him out of it. You can also sometimes break terrain that it's on top of and use that to fuck him over, but you know. Main thing with the Punisher is he does way more damage than you think he will, and that is to every class in the game. Tanks, supports, DPS, doesn't matter. He will shred you. He is really boring, but also just too good at what he does a lot of the time. He has a smoke grenade that he can see through. His ultimate turns him into fucking Mauga. And he has zip lines that really only he can use. Side note, Marvel Rivals, let's let other people use the zip lines too, and then nerf every other element of this fucking asshole's kit so I never have to play against him again. You know, that seems like a valid compromise. And then while I was making this video, Iron Fist dropped, so another DPS. Iron Fist can run on walls, is a melee character, has a triple jump, can self-heal, can basically reflect damage out, and for his ultimate, basically just beats the shit out of everyone he sees. He's also got a dash. This character looks really silly and really fun. They also revealed Black Widow, Cloak and Dagger, and Wolverine, but we really don't know anything about these characters yet. I'm sure that will change the second that I upload this video though, so be ready for this to be outdated before it's even posted. And the final character that I haven't played, Winter Soldier. The final character I haven't played for DPS, that is. He's got a big gun with 3 shots. The shots basically like airburst shotgun out when you hit someone, so they do damage to people behind them, which is pretty crazy. The thing to note about him is his ultimate just keeps going if he can get this culling effect on enemies. Basically, if their health drops to a certain extent, they will die. And then he will continue to slam his stupid arm on people over and over again. He's got a dash that launches people up. He has a big punch that slows people and knocks down flying characters. He has a hook, and basically anytime that he's using his bionic arm, his gun will recharge automatically. Also, infinite ammo passive Rocket Raccoon. Okay. On to the tanks. Captain America is a character I haven't played, but from everything I can see, he is your big shield tank. He is mostly melee, but he can throw the shield at enemies. He can sprint and jump higher, he can do a shield bash, he can slam into the ground launching people up, and he can deflect incoming projectiles. This also goes to ultimates. I don't know how that's going to play out in terms of the game, but you know, that seems a little strong, personally. And when he teams up with Thor, his shield is going to electrocute nearby enemies and give him a movement boost when he uses his C. His ultimate seems to just sort of be a way to give his teammates extra health and movement. Seems pretty interesting, but I don't know how impactful it will be until I've actually played the character. Doctor Strange is a really, really fun character. He does so much damage and has so many silly mechanics to him. The main things you're going to want to watch out for with Doctor Strange are sneaky teleports, especially teleporting you off the map at the start of the game. Do not jump through an enemy teleport unless you know that it's safe. And when you're playing him, his anti-heal. See, when Doctor Strange does damage, he charges up a meter. This is the counterplay to how much damage he can do. If that meter hits full, you will anti-heal yourself. So you need to use your E to dissipate that magic when you get close to that. He does have a shield he can put up a lot of the time. You used to be able to animation cancel with this for his primary fire. You can no longer do that. He also has a teleport where he can basically make a portal leading across the map. This thing is on a 3-minute cooldown, so make sure you're using it when you can, but I wouldn't stress too much about when you're using it. You can also fly, but only when he uses his shift. He doesn't have a float like a lot of other characters do. Kind of weird. I think he should be able to float all the time, but that's just me. Groot is really annoying. Groot is a self-sustained tank, but he also has a lot of walls. Things to worry about Groot. Do your best to break the walls. If you leave up the walls, you're giving him free damage or free healing. Especially the big darker wall that he has. That one needs to go because that's how he's going to sustain himself. Groot doesn't have a lot of range to him, but he can be an absolute menace to get out of certain areas. His ultimate is basically just a giant root that roots everyone in his area. And then he can put up walls, lots of walls, and these can block damage. His Ironwood wall heals him, and his Thorn Slash wall does damage whenever there is damage dealt nearby. These can also be used to like climb up onto certain things. And then he has a bomb. His team up is whenever he's with Jeff or Rocket, he gets 150 plus max health. Now Hulk is an interesting one. You start out as Bruce Banner and you've got a grenade and a gun. The second that you hit 100% on your ult charge, you can turn into Hulk. When you spawn, you're already at 100%, and Hulk is a melee tank. The main thing with Hulk is he has a 0-second cooldown leap that gets him across the map. This leap can pull people out of the air. This leap can allow him to cling to walls, so he is very mobile. The other things about him is he has a CC that can stun someone. If you hit them while they're stunned, they will no longer be stunned. And he has one ranged ability, which is his right click, which is going to throw big damaging projectile out. When he teams up with Doctor Strange or Iron Man, he's going to gain 150 max health. His shift is a bubble. You can give this bubble to a lot of people, and the energy for it gets put towards his ultimate. Yeah, he has ult charge off mitigation. And his ultimate is basically just he becomes a bigger, angrier Hulk. All of his moves do more damage, but he also can pop his Q again to basically grab someone, CC them for 5 seconds, and beat the shit out of them like Loki. Magneto is pretty fun if his team up ability is a little bit busted. I don't think this will be able to two-shot anymore, hopefully. But the main thing to worry about with Magneto is his team up with Scarlet Witch gives him a big sword that does puncturing damage, and that damage hurts. Be really, really careful with that one. The other tip for Magneto is his ultimate. When he does his big meteor, stop shooting, please, because your shots are going to go into the meteor, and that makes it do more damage. For Magneto players, stop using this as just a damage ability. Wait for something like a Punisher ult or any big projectile attacks that can do a lot of damage. Rocket Raccoon ults, basically anything like that. Also, you need to make sure you aren't overloading the meteor, because if you overload it, you lose it. So you basically just wasted your ult. The rest of Magneto's kit is basically just dealing damage to charge up his right click, or blocking damage to charge up his right click. He can give himself or allies bubbles, and any damage dealt to that goes into the mag cannon, his right click. He can make a shield in front of him, but this shield is only staying up for like a second or two. Use this sparingly. The bubbles are your friend. The main thing you're going to do with Magneto is try and spam out as much damage as possible while still giving bubbles to people in need, and then hitting his ridiculously powerful team-up attack. It's a pretty fun character, if a little basic. Next up on the list, Penny Parker. Penny Parker is weird, and I really don't like playing her. She has like a pretty fast-firing primary fire, but her main gimmick is about these mines, You can put out this spider nest that makes a bunch of spider mines and webs around it. You can also deploy your own mines. If the mines go inside of a web, they become invisible until someone is near them, and then they make this little clicky-clacky sound, and they do a bit of damage. She can also shoot herself 2 webs, but if this hits an area that doesn't have a web, it applies a web to it. So really, I feel like more often than not, you want to not shoot yourself to the web. You want to use this to help maximize the amount of webs you can put up. You can also wall crawl, and you have a stun that webs opponents, or puts webs on the ground or around. She also has the Venom team up where she has the big explosion, and her ultimate is just sort of, she flails around like an idiot for a while, shooting webs and hitting stuff. There are people that can make this character work. That being said, I'm not one of them, and most people I played against in both tech tests for this character also weren't one of them. So, Thor, another melee tank, he's kind of silly. The main thing with Thor is hammer management. He has a thing called the Thor Force where he can have multiple hammer charges basically. When he consumes them, he gets bonus health. If he hits people with his hammer, he gets Thor Force back. He can go into an awakened state where he starts like tasing people all the time, or like summon a bubble where he gets Thor Force in it. For the most part, you're going to be charging up your dash with your shift, using that to deal a bit of damage. Hit him a few times, use up your Thor Force, try and hit a lightning realm on a bunch of enemies to get some Thor Force back. Maybe hit your awakening taser state where you burn all your Thor Force and start zapping people, and then try and hit your big ult. His ult is pretty strong, but there are definitely crazier ults in the game, so I don't know. He can also be revived if Hela gets a kill, and he gets 100 max health when he's paired with Storm or Captain America. And finally, the last tank for now, Venom. Same thing as Spider-Man. First thing, go into your hero settings, turn off the assisted swinging. This will only make your life worse playing this character. Venom has a pretty short range, but he also does a lot of damage, and he's also very slippery. With Venom, your main thing is you're going to want to swing in, you're going to want to hit your F, Frenzied Arrival, slam in and do a bunch of damage, hit your primary fire on people. Once you get low, you're going to want to hit your shields. The lower you go, the more shields you get. And then you're going to want to disengage with your swing again. When you land on people, you're going to want to hit them with your right click too, because if you can stay close to people, you will deal extra damage. And for his ultimate, he basically just goes underground and he jumps up and fights a bunch of people. It does damage, it gives him back bonus health. When he teams up with any other Spider-Man character, he gets 150 max health. We did it. We got all of the heroes done for now. Granted, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a new hero released tomorrow, so whenever I upload this video, this is also going to already be outdated, so that's really cool and fun. But I hope that hearing a little bit about what all these characters do helps you figure out which one you'd want to play, and at least that seeing the gameplay of them helps a bit as well. Have a good Monday, and I will see you on Friday for the launch of Marvel Rivals.